what would be a $60 million dead cap hit. I don't know how you move on from Carson Wentz. And the idea of opening this up to a quarterback competition in training camp, I don't see it. Unless there are theoretically two trade scenarios, right? Indianapolis makes the most sense because Frank Reich, the real architect of the Super Bowl win, I'm sure he would love to have Carson Wentz. Phillip Rivers obviously isn't a long-term, option. Brissett's not either. The other one that I haven't seen bantered about that makes all the sense in the world to me is the Jets. Because Darnold to me is not a franchise quarterback. And I could be wrong. Like maybe he's fine. But I don't think he has the ceiling of what Carson Wentz showed in his rookie year. I don't even think that he has the ceiling of what Carson Wentz did last year with a bunch of practice squad players and leading them to the postseason. The Jets were too stupid to lose out, so they already lost out on the best pick in the draft. If I'm New York, I don't know how I make it work, but I at least try to kick the tires on it. Because you're getting a quarterback that is established, a quarterback that is still relatively young. Sure, he's going to cost you a franchise quarterback salary, but I think he's better than what you have. And then it allows you to use a top pick on another position of need and not have to worry so much about trying to solve the quarterback issue. That's where I'm at.
That's pretty interesting. I have not heard Wentz to the Jets yet, but that does make a lot of sense. I think the problem is the Jets don't want to give up on Darnold that quick. But again, he hasn't proved much to me in 3 years. Wentz in Jets colors would be very interesting. Brandon, what do you think of that?
There's also the management connection. I mean, you got to figure who's calling the shots with the Jets now. It's Joe Douglas, another guy who doesn't get quite enough credit for creating that 2017 team because it clearly wasn't Howie when you watch the years in the drafts prior. So he was enamored with Wentz once. He could very well bring him back for the same reasons Frank Reich loved him the first time.
By the way, I think it's a totally plausible thing that, like, if they send Hurts out for the last game and he tears it up, I have to imagine that there are going to be 5 teams in the NFL that are going to be calling about Jalen Hurts because you don't have the franchise money, right? You're on a rookie deal. You've shown flashes of brilliance. And if you're the Eagles and you can finagle a couple of high-ish picks that you can use to try to replenish a team that has a million holes, you'd be kind of doing organizational malpractice to not even look into it, right? So I don't see a scenario where both of these guys are back next year. The hurdles are certainly there with one more than the other, though.
When we first made that pick, that's the only way I could rationalize it to myself. There's no way you draft a Taysom Hill gadget-type player in the second round. You just don't do it. So I had to figure that Howie thought this gem dropped to him, which it may or may not have, and he wanted to use those little sample sizes we got when Carson Wentz was still the starter to try and finagle a second or third rounder the year prior. It's still not a great idea, but this might be his master plan working out, even though the Eagles had to lose 10 games for it to happen. Moving on from what this disaster of a season was, there's a guy on the sideline I really think gets looked over an awful lot and has for years. Is next year finally the year Deuce Staley gets something more than just a pretty title or the personal assistant to Doug Peterson? I think he's better off calling the plays than what we currently have now with this offensive council or whatever the hell it was this year.
Well, I think the biggest issue that the Eagles have, honestly, is that they don't have an offensive coordinator. I think that speaks to the arrogance of Doug Peterson. I don't actually know what Deuce Staley does. I don't actually know what any of the